Sam, so you and I just met today.
Mm-hmm.
And we're here in Charlotte, and you've made quite a name in a short period of time for what you're doing in the world of hospitality here in Charlotte. I read your story, read the backstory, and you got out of college and you were in advertising and marketing, and if I remember correctly, and liked cooking. Mm-hmm. Is that what it was? And then decided, like, there's a lot of people that like cooking, and they're like, okay, well, I should go open a restaurant, and that doesn't always end so well. You liked cooking. You went to CPCC, a community college here, to learn to cook, and have gone quite a ways since then. So what the only question I ask everybody that comes on the show, it's like a free flow and we just talk, but I always like to know how, when, and why did your path into hospitality start?
Well, what's kind of interesting is how quick that story is. You've already given me too much credit, because when you say after college, it makes it sound like I've graduated. I've dropped out of college 4 times. So
fair enough.
I appreciate the assumption that I've graduated. But when I dropped out of college the first time, I came back to Charlotte. I was up in Pennsylvania, came back down to Charlotte, and I did the only job that I knew that I could make money without a college degree, and that was selling stuff. And so I kind of did like a Dunder Mifflin type deal, and I was selling paper at one point. And then I moved up to Utah chasing someone out there, and that fell through. And so I ended up having to live out of my car for 3 weeks. And when I finally was done, like with that situation, because I finally got a job, I was selling cars at Larry H. Miller Chrysler Jeep Dodge in Provo, Utah. And I got that job and finally was able to move into an apartment. And I somehow was able to convince BYU that I was going to be attending school at BYU, even though I hadn't even gotten accepted. I never ended up going there, but I was the only non-student and non-Mormon in this entire student apartment complex across the street from the football stadium. And it was while I was there that I had to cook for the first time. I never really had an attachment to cooking. It wasn't really something that I cared for. It wasn't really something that was a part of my life up until that point. I was 21, and I had to cook. I had to get 10 for $10 boxes of pasta, 3 for $5 jars of Prego tomato sauce at Kroger, and just cooking to survive. But I loved the creative freedom of it. I loved that there was also a process I had to go through. It was very regimented, because there's nothing really of my life that was very regimented. And then that bug just kept on flowing, and then I moved back to Charlotte as soon as I could, and I was selling billboard advertisements, and then I was selling radio ads. And it was while I was working for Hart that I was cooking for friends and potential clients, because I had really fallen in love with cooking at that point. And it was while I was doing one of those dinners. So this answers your question of that whole, answering all 3 of those questions simultaneously. I was cooking one of those dinners, and the idea of Counter, the exact way that we do it right now, from a macro perspective, as far as pairing music with food, telling stories, all that just happened while I was cooking one of those dinners, and I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I quit my job the next day and went to culinary school the day after. So it was all within 48 hours. So very quick.
But you found you found your thing.
Yeah. And I think that's why I did it so quickly, is that I was at a conference the week before, probably 2 weeks before. And the speaker said, if you're fortunate, if you're incredibly fortunate, then you will discover your opportunity to be great at something in life. Very rarely do people go after that, though. That's why you have so many people who are normal. You have so many people who are average.
Yeah.
Because they either don't find that thing, or when they find it, they don't want to go after it. And so I thought I was good at what I did. I wasn't really passionate about it. I didn't really care about it, to the point of like wanting to do something spectacular with it. So when this idea pops in my head, I was like, okay, maybe this is the thing. Maybe, and I can't not go after it, because I knew that if I didn't, it would just haunt me for the rest of my life. That, well, you didn't do that one thing that you could have been great at. So made that decision a little bit easier.
Some people never figure that out, or they're just too scared.
Yeah.
Robbie and I were just talking about this out there. You know, this guy told me once, restaurant owner, on this podcast, he said, every decision we make is made out of love or fear. And there's a lot of people that might find what they love, but they're scared to pursue it. Fear holds them back. Fear of failure, fear of whatever it is, fear of standing out, a lot of it's fear of failure or risk, you know. And then you get people that may get to a point in life where they figure that out and it's too late, which is what you alluded to, where you go, well, now I can't take that risk because I've got a mortgage and I've got school to pay, whatever it is, you know. That's an amazing thing to so quickly just say. And you'd lived out of your car for 3 weeks. You were kind of wandering, trying to figure out what it was.
And I was probably making too much money when I made that decision too. When I was working at iHeart, and when I was before that I was at Adams Outdoor Advertising. Like I was doing well with it. So like it was definitely a shock to my family, my now ex-wife. She wasn't a big fan of that. But regret is something that I don't want to have lingering around me. And so that's definitely, you know, it's interesting that you bring up like decisions either come from love or fear. It's like that decision came out of both. But then also, I think looking back at it was definitely kind of just this, not so much a shot in the dark, but it was just a desire to make something happen, I think.
Well, there's so you decide this. You've got something that, and I commend you, because when you're doing well at this point, making good money. But money is, you know, it's interesting. I know people that make a lot of money that don't love what they do and wish that they could be doing something that they love. You know, I'm 51 now, so I like when I want to
look like you when I'm 51.
When you're in your 50s, it's like you probably are kind of like, it's hard unless you're just like, you know, you've made a bunch of money, you can take whatever. But like a lot of people get to their, I know people. I mean, I started out in corporate America. I lasted like a minute because I didn't like that space, and I got into being an entrepreneur. And it's risky when you start, sure, but then the longer you do it, the less risk you have, because you own your business and you sort of set your own course and chart your own destiny.
And you've been practicing risk.
And then the flip side of that is when if you took the quote safer path, then you might be in some job that maybe you're making good money, you probably don't love it, and maybe you become expendable if the economy turns or something like that. So when I talk to like the kids up at our high school or whatever, I talk about entrepreneurialism, I'm always like, just take risk early. Like taking risk early in life, you got plenty of time to, you know, fail and figure your way out. So, all right. So you've got this, you're like, in 48 hours, you make this decision. Keep going with that, because then you had to go actually, you know, like.
So quite a bit changed in that moment. I left iHeart. I realized that I wasn't going to make that much money as a line cook in Charlotte. I accepted a job to make $8 an hour as a dishwasher. And so I had to figure out a way to make money. So I was in school full time. Then also on the side, I was selling ads for my mom's weekly newspaper. She was at the time the publisher of South Charlotte Weekly Newspapers. I was like, all right, I'll sell that. And then also in the middle of the night, I was doing Lyft and Uber and Postmates so I can make a little bit of money there, support myself. And because of that, I was going 18 hours a day just to fuel this idea, and then also just to survive and continue to live the way that I was living. And then when I was in culinary school, I wanted to find a mentor, because this is something that I didn't really have at any point leading up to going to culinary school. So thankfully, very quickly, I found my mentor in Chef Rob Marilla, and he took me underneath his wing. I started learning from him lots of classics and fundamentals and things that I didn't initially have written down or expected in this goal of mine and plan of mine to eventually open up what's now Counter. And through being underneath his wing, I got some really awesome opportunities. I've assisted him in his tryouts for Team USA for the Culinary Olympic team, and I was doing some student competitions and all that jazz. When I got near the end of culinary school, which I have one class left, I need to take it to graduate. They are on my ass about it. I'm on my own ass about it. I need to get it done. But when I was near the end of culinary school, that's when I realized I had to move. I had to leave because Charlotte is just like every other city in the world in the sense that you can't learn everything about any singular subject in just one city. So I believe that about New York, London, Paris, Tokyo, you name it. You have to live in multiple different places. You have to understand kind of this depth and breadth that exists in especially food. So I started sending out my resume to multiple different restaurants throughout the world. Didn't really hear anything back. And finally, after a few months of going after restaurants, finding things out, I got a tattoo of a dish that inspired me a lot from a restaurant called Alinea in Chicago. And the chef who created that dish freaked out about seeing it on Instagram. He was like, "You got my food on your, like, tattooed on your arm." And
which tattoo is that?
it's this one right here. It's a balloon. They made a balloon out of sugar and inflated it with helium and brought it out to guests at this place called Alinea. And I then replied back to this guy. His name's Chef Mike Begale. And he thankfully said yes when I asked him if I could stage or interview there. And when I went up there, I staged there for 10 days and I was offered a job, accepted it, bawling my eyes out. And it was, I finally felt like this dream actually had life to it, had a pulse. And then I worked there, and then after my stint in Chicago, during my stint in Chicago, COVID happened, and I decided that, okay, maybe it's time to go ahead and fully pursue this to the point of opening up a restaurant. And we were offered a really awesome spot over in the City Kitch. It's now Restaurant Constance. It's the same location. And we moved in, and the rest is history. But yeah, it's just, I think, there's a lot of struggle in there. There's a lot of details between those lines, and there's a lot of strife between those lines, and there's a lot of friends lost, families lost, finding new friends, finding mentors, lots of decisions that were definitely iron sharpening iron. But I wouldn't even say iron sharpening iron. I mean, it was like for a long time, because I was a terrible line cook when I first started. I was horrible. Like,
why? What do you mean?
Oh, I was so inexperienced. I didn't know anything about food.
And was this at Alinea? Or
No, this is before I go to Alinea. My first job in cooking, like in a restaurant, was at Heirloom with Clark Barlow. And if you ask Anne Marie, who's the executive pastry chef at Your Farm's Your Table and Restaurant Constance, if you ask her how I was as a line cook, she'll be straight up with you. Like, I was horrible. I was one of the worst line cooks ever. I was terrible because I didn't know anything. Because not only do you need to know how to cook food, you need to know how to have a routine and cleanliness and organization and standards and, following through and all. There's so much more to cooking than food. And I didn't have any of that. And that was what I knew I had to work on the absolute most.
Okay. Was
working on the discipline, working on the routine, working on the focus, working on the refinement. And that's what we focus so much on at Counter with our individual employees. It's like, yeah, you can chat GPT a recipe now, but you can't chat GPT your work ethic. We we have interns that come in, and I tell them, I was like, yeah, you want to learn some recipes, you want to learn some cool techniques, you want to learn some plating techniques, but that's not the reason why you're here. Like, I'm here and you're here so we can forge more of the mindset of how to operate and get you set up in that way. Because that's the more important thing. Because then even if they leave culinary, they'll have that for anything that they go down.
So you recognized that you needed these things. You worked to pursue the discipline, the organization. At Alinea, which Alinea is like one of the top restaurants in the world, right? I mean, that's sort of I've heard of it. I've never been there.
I would say it's probably the second most important restaurant in American history behind the French Laundry.
Wow.
So I was shocked.
That's why you were in tears when you got there.
Yeah, I was shocked that I got offered a job. But then also, I mean, they've got 40 cooks on staff. I was older than 32, 33 of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so many like 20, like, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds that were there. And I was 25, 26. So I was old. And I felt old around them. Like, I physically felt old. I mean, we were doing like 20 to 25,000 steps a day. And then all the food was downstairs, or you had to go prep in this place called the Carriage House, which was around the corner upstairs. So I was doing like 100 flights of stairs a day because what's funny is that when you are disorganized, you work so much harder, especially at Alinea. So it forced you to be organized, because if you were constantly forgetting ingredients and having to run downstairs and run back upstairs, you're like, oh shit, I need that pan. Let me run downstairs. Let me run back upstairs. Well, then all of a sudden you see the intelligent cooks, and they have literally everything they need for the whole day on one tray, and they bring it up, they do all their stuff, then go back down to put everything away, and then they're not running up 100 flights of stairs a day. I was like, oh, that's smart.
Yeah.
So, that was a place that forced kind of waking up and being a little bit more intelligent, being a little bit more disciplined, because if not, you're going to be like rail thin.
So had you been thinking of the concept of counter all along? I mean, how did you go from there to coming back here and talk about counter?
Yeah. So I think it's easier to describe it at where it is now and then go backwards. So counter, we do a progressive dining experience where you dine in 3 different rooms throughout the night, and we do a max seating of 18 people. Everyone dines at the same time. And we have a story that goes throughout the entire dining experience. So our upcoming menu is called Mountain. It is going to be in honor of the ingredients and seasonality of the mountains of North Carolina and South Carolina. But more importantly, it's also the story of the team that's there. So we're actually saying that this is kind of the second act of this story that we've written for 12 years, because we have every single menu, like not each individual recipe planned out for every single course, but we have the story written out for every single menu between now and when we close, which is in 2,558 days. Not like we're counting down or anything.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Counter.
Yeah. Counter closes September 9th, 2032.
Why?
Because that's the end of the story.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when I had the idea of counter, I thought of it in the sense of, I want to have a place that doesn't fizzle out at the end, that tells a complete story, that it's chapters to this story, but it's a story. And then you experience each chapter while you're there. And then the chapters have soundtracks to them, because we pair music with every single course. And you learn from the chefs. You directly connect with the chefs. And then through that, if you dine there multiple times, you see this common thread. That's why our goal at Counter is to get you to visit at least 3 times, because you'll see the thread after your 3rd visit. So it's something that ever since the idea went into my mind, it's kind of been an obsession ever since. And it was around 2 years into me working in culinary that I told that idea for the first time to somebody. And they told me it was the dumbest, stupidest idea of all time. And that was going to waste someone's money and all this stuff. And that's when I kind of, sucked it back in. I was like, I'm just going to keep this to myself for now and really make sure that this idea has legs and is valid. And then when we started doing the pop-ups back in 2019, that was when I was like, okay, we're going to open this back up. We're going to let people know, how we're going to do this with music pairings and storytelling and things like that. But it wasn't until we started the clock, if you will, of when we were closing, when we moved into our new location. And our landlords realized pretty quickly that it didn't line up with when our lease ends. So they freaked out a little bit. But they understand now. And I was like, you're still going to get your rent throughout all of the lease. Don't worry.
Oh, your lease extends past September 9th, 2032. Okay.
Yeah, by a decent amount.
Okay. It was like a 10-year lease or something like that.
It's almost an 11-year lease.
Okay.
So it's like an 8 or 9 month difference. And they're like, what are you going to do for these other months? And I was like, we'll figure it out when we get there.
We'll figure it out. So you decided that after you had moved in?
So initially it was going to be 100 menus. We were going to do just 10 years.
Okay.
But then when we were at our first location for almost 2 years, and when we moved into the new spot, I decided to tack on another 25 menus. So another like 2.5 years onto it. Well, not like another 2 years kind of flat on it. The main reason is I kind of had this idea of how we could end the restaurant. And that idea is like 2 years long.
Okay.
Because the initial idea is that there's going to be two kind of acts. There's going to be the first 5 years, which we just completed. Last week was the last menu of that first set.
Congrats.
Thanks. This is very nerve-wracking.
What was the story you told in the first act?
It was my story.
Okay.
It was all about the stuff that inspired me, things that kind of progressed my career. It was a very, to me, there is a very specific difference in these two words, but it was an egocentric story, not egotistical story, but egocentric, where it's like, this is my paradigm. This is how I've seen the world. This is the music, this is the cuisine, this is the whatever that has inspired me the most to create this. And this is what I've been inspired by. The next 5 years is about the team that is at that restaurant that's been there now for 2 to 3 years, that has been working there and been such a huge element of it. I want to take more of a step away, and they're going to take more of a step forward, and the stories are mainly from them. Because the goal of Counter now is to develop chefs and front of house members and hospitality members as much as possible, to the point where they go out and they build their own thing.
Yeah.
Because the last thing that I want to see is when someone leaves Counter, they take massive steps back. Because that means that I didn't do that. Like, I take ownership of that.
Yeah, you're giving them an opportunity and you're teaching them and you're helping them. I mean, this is great. This is one of the things I love so much about the hospitality business is there's so many people that foster young people that want to learn, that want to do their own thing, but need a place to hone their skills.
And someone to believe in them.
And someone to believe in them. And then somebody that will be their first customer when they go start their own place and support that, not, try to win them back. I mean, in so many industries, it's like, oh no, this person's leaving. Let's try to get what's so great about hospitality is that there's just this constant, new place. The industry needs people to come through, grow, start their own places. It's rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing.
Yeah, I will say that the only fault that Charlotte has in its food scene is that they're too obsessed with the bright, shiny new object, and there's not enough support of the restaurants that have established themselves. It needs to be a healthy mixture of the two.
Yeah.
Because one of the most unfortunate facts is that the last time a chef owner opened a fine dining restaurant, and it lasted for 5 years The last time that happened was when Bruce Moffett opened up Stagioni.
Mm.
And that was 13 years ago.
Yeah. That's the last time.
Yeah. I mean, you look at all of these great chefs that have come through Charlotte. Look at Mike Knoll, Paul Verica, Greg Collier, all of them. Not a single one of their restaurants lasted 5 years, which is terrifying. And it has a lot to do. There's so many different things that are a part of that, not just, Charlotte dining, but we had marked on our calendar since we hit our first year, because that was our first big goals. Let's make it a year. But then once we made it a year, it's 5 years is the next big chapter. Can we get to 5 years? Because no one's done that, which is kind of crazy to think about. Because 5 years is that's a blink, right? So 5 years is next week. And we are throwing a party. We're very excited about it, but we're going to celebrate it for one day, because now we're all right, we got 7 years left, but we want to do this next 5 year chunk and do it right.
Why were you able to get to 5 in this market, which values the shiny and new, and the other folks weren't?
Because I love failing.
Huh?
There's so many chefs who are so scared to fail and do something wrong. And at Counter, we have changed how we operate so many different times to figure out what works and what we enjoy and what functions. We have changed our structure. We've changed our service structure and our price point. Actually, we haven't changed our price point much at all, but how we go about service, how long service is, how many courses we do, certain elements and interactions with guests, all of that stuff. We've done all this fiddling around with it to figure out, okay, what are we going to enjoy the most when we come in here? What makes the most sense? What functions best? What does the guest get the best experience out of? And it's having those moments where you're okay, that didn't work, or this is not working. Let's figure out what's a better option. But we're never scared of going after the new thing. We're never scared about figuring out, all right, well, let's see if this works or not. And I think a lot of restaurants, they figure out something that works, that functions, and they stick with it because they that's the evil they know, right? They've got control of it. At least they think they've got control of it. And they never take the moment to go out on a limb and find stuff that doesn't work to find that one thing that does.
Yeah, you're just constantly iterating, trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you don't. Well, it's interesting because you said egocentric for the first 5 years, but not egotistical. And when you're egotistical, a lot of times you don't like trying something that doesn't work because that harms your ego.
Yeah, you're convinced that everything that you're going to do works.
Yeah,
that doesn't work.
Take me back, because you had this conversation with somebody. I was like, no way, that's going to work. Yeah. So you kind of kept it close for a while, but then something happened where you were able to. Did you get investors? Did you do a SBA? How did you get this thing going? You had to convince somebody, I imagine.
Yeah. I, not to the degree that you would think, very, very fortunate. I think this is a combination of pride meets not knowing how to go about it. And then also just seeing if I could do it in the way that I wanted to. But I've never taken a loan from a bank, and we never took loans, we never took PPP loans, anything like that. I've only ever worked directly with people.
Okay.
Because in my mind, a restaurant is a people business. And so the bank's never going to show up. Bank's never going to help me out with my taxes. The bank's never going to help me figure out a solution to a problem. So for me, if you're doing business with a person, you got an asset. Whereas if you're doing business with a bank, you might have a slightly lower interest rate, maybe, but you're not going to get any additional asset there. So when I was up in Chicago, I initially wanted to open up the restaurant in Chicago. I actually had a lease signed for a space in Chicago. And then when COVID happened, that was done. There's no way that's going to happen. And what's kind of cool is that the space I was looking at getting into, it now has a Michelin star restaurant in it. It's called Esme. So like, oh yeah, that's cool. Serendipitous. But when I was in Chicago, I got a phone call from City Kitch, which is where Counter was initially. And this woman was like, it sounded like she was just like one of the sirens off in the distance, like trying to like lure me in because it made no sense. She was like, yeah, everything's going to be included. Utilities, water, chemicals for your dishwasher, all this equipment, everything's going to be included into your lease. Your lease is only going to be $10,000 a month. I'm like, that's pretty awesome. That means that this restaurant really only needs to make like $600,000 a year. I can make a restaurant that makes $600,000 a year. So I had accumulated over the years a bunch of small wares and kitchen equipment. And I said, well, I don't have to really invest into that. Really, the only thing that I need to do is find a staff and get some money together for inventory, and then I can do it. So I started doing these pop-ups, and then I started looking at the cars of the people driving in to the pop-ups. I was like, okay, there's rich people cars and there's wealthy people cars. Like, I want to talk to the wealthy people cars. They might be able to help me afford to open up this restaurant. And I had invited this couple who I'd known 10 years ago. Because I mean, also, you know, when you're opening up a business, invite all the wealthiest people that you know to that pop-up. Maybe one of them wants to throw some money at you. And thankfully, he and his wife had a really awesome time. And they were able to loan us a whopping $20,000. So I opened up Counter on $35,000, $15,000 of my own money from selling all my stuff. And then $20,000 that they loaned. And we got the place open. And we had a lot of assistance from local purveyors and local ceramicists that we still work with to this day because they had our back in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
Because we were the only people buying. We're the only restaurant that was buying at the time all these high level luxury local ingredients and all this stuff and being open. And we were the only people going out to ceramicists asking them to make plates. So they gave us an insane deal. And I was telling them, I was writing them checks for more than they told me because I was like, this is ridiculous that they're only asking for this much. So we opened it up on $35K. We paid back that $20,000 loan within 3 months. And we were humming. Like the first 2 months, it was pretty dead. But then when we got to November, that was when things started kicking off. And then December that started everything else. That just got everything going. So for me, it was this constant investment in myself for a long time. And then it kind of just like fell into place.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I could have gone to a bank and got $20K, but we figured out how to open up a restaurant on Salvation Army plates. And I got some flatware from Sleepy Poet. And I had my KitchenAid mixer that I bought 5 years ago for my house. And that's what we were cooking with that in some plates that, you know, Matt Halliburton and Christian Hunter made for us. I mean, it was bare bones. We were scrappy. We were doing a 10-course dinner for $110, which was nuts.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I honestly sometimes don't know how we did it, but we did. It was pretty cool. We had a staff of 4 people.
I think that's great advice. That's a great story, and it's great advice for people to hear because I think a lot of times people spend way too much money opening a restaurant, and then money you borrow and the equipment and brand new equipment and the upfit and everything, and it's like, that's all. Like, you have to figure out how to make all that back before you're even making a dime, and you're kind of behind the 8 ball. Which puts you under stress, which creates fear, which can create bad decisions.
Put yourself when you I did this just because, like, I was kind of, not forced to, but it was COVID and I was broke. So I was kind of thrown into this situation. But I've helped consult with a couple other people, and I tell them, put yourself in your worst possible scenario first. Because if you can figure out how to be successful and efficient in the worst case scenario without all these extra things that you think you need, without all these extra people that you think you need, and without all this other bullshit, if you can be successful in the bare bones and in the scariest situation and you succeed, then there's nothing that's going to come against you that you're going to be afraid of ever again.
Yep.
Unless you create something that's more difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I talk sometimes about like, even if you have means, just pretend that you're poor.
Yeah.
Like pretend that you have, like if you had no money, how would you solve this problem?
Yeah.
Because money is always like such an easy thing to throw at a problem, and it just, can compound. I love that. That's amazing. You started that place with that. That's, dude, that's freaking awesome.
I wish the second spot only cost me $35,000.
Tell me about the second spot.
Second spot cost me a whole lot more than $35,000. Second spot. So,
and this is, you're opening a second spot, the end of the 5-year story, which was primarily your story.
No, we moved counter.
Okay.
So when we moved,
when you moved
from counter 1.0 to 2.0, that's when I learned the very important lesson, which is no one's going to care about your dream as much as you do.
Yeah, right. Very true.
No matter what they say. So we got hurt pretty bad financially opening up counter 2.0. Initially, it was only going to cost us, we were projected $800,000. It cost us $1.5 million. And we were closed for about 6 months longer than we thought we were going to be. And I paid my team in totality the whole time. So the most expensive piece of opening up that restaurant was actually payroll. Then we got our feet underneath us, and it took us like 1.5 years to make that place feel like home. And then we were really moving things around and really finagling with things, really trying to figure out, okay, who is exactly, who do we want to be? And then I think we finally got it figured out. Right now, I think we're doing exactly what we want to do, which really looking at the grand scheme of things, taking 5 years to figure out exactly how you want to operate a business, it's not that long of a time, but it felt like eternity.
Yeah. Then
2 years ago next month, a house that I had fallen in love with as soon as I saw it the first time, which was 224 West 10th Street, the Poplar House, or the Lady Morrison House. That came available because Poplar House in Tapas, she decided to retire and be done with the restaurant. And as soon as I heard that announcement, I reached out to Heath, who is the owner of the building. I said, I don't care what we sign for LOI. I want this building because I adore this building. I've loved it for 15 years. And that's when we started everything to get Spaghetti up and running and finding the team for that and dealing with opening up a restaurant in a 135-year-old house. So that's the second spot. And it's been open for 2 months now. And it's a vibe.
It's a vibe.
It is a wild time.
Tell me about it.
So it is a craft pasta and cocktail spot that 90%, and when we tell this to people, I don't think they understand how crazy this is. 90% of the ingredients are from the Carolinas.
Really?
Yeah. So, we're talking, we have salt, oil, all of the flour for the pastas, literally 90% of the ingredients from here. And the reason why we did that is to showcase that even the most fundamental and basic cuisine that people think of that is crazy, Italian food is so complex. For every single Italian grandmother there's out there, there's a different kind of pasta.
Right.
Right. So it's so outrageously interwoven and intricate. And so many people think that, if you are going to make proper Italian food, you have to fly in San Marzano tomatoes and you have to get this certain flour that's made in Italy and all this stuff. And that's not true. All those ingredients that Italy's known for, they got from other places in the world. Like tomatoes are originally from here.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, if a true Italian chef, like an Italian grandmother, right? If she was teleported over to the Carolinas in 1893 when this building was first built, what ingredients would she do? Would she fly stuff over from Italy? No. She's going to see what the farmers have around her, and then she's going to make really delicious food. And so that's kind of the mindset of the restaurant. And we have some fun with it. We do, like, it's all about having just a smile on your face the whole time and not taking yourself too seriously, but supporting the farms at the same time.
Can you, this is just a very naive question, but can you get wheat that's not sprayed with glyphosate and all the stuff that, like, you hear, well, you have to get it from Italy if you want, like, so you can,
all
here in the Carolinas.
Yeah, so all of our flour comes from Anson Mills, and we use like an Emmer rye, and it is beyond organic.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh man, fighting the man in Monsanto is like, that's my thing.
Yeah. Well, I figured that was the case. That's why I asked that question, because I've always heard, oh, well, you have to, you know, like, it has to, because everything here is, I mean, I'm looking at the clock, and I know we got to wrap because I know they got another one. I almost want to do like a second session with you if I can, because I have like 1,000 more questions I'd like to ask you. A lot of it gets into food and food quality and what we're eating as a culture, and, you know, how we, like, what we're doing to ourselves. Because I wanted to ask you about, you know, your bracelet that says it's okay to not be okay, and some of the things we were talking about, because I think all this stuff is all tied together. Like, mental health, a lot of it ties to what we're putting into our body. And anyway, that's probably another conversation sometime.
I'm totally down to have a second conversation for sure. And I mean, you're definitely right. I mean, you can't, even if you just look at it from an external, just obvious standpoint, you know, if you put the wrong gasoline into a car, it's not going to function. And what we put into our bodies is so much more complicated than gasoline. And our bodies are infinitely more complicated than a car.
Yep.
So, of course, I mean, the answer is obvious. You know, as someone who's on intense keto, what it feels like to finally be able to eat carbs at one point, or like just,
right.
You know, when you're able to level things out or balance things out. I mean, it's just, but yeah, you're definitely correct on that, and you're definitely onto something. Yeah.
All right, last thing, and we'll wrap. I hope we can do another one.
I've got the best chef in Canada sitting in a hotel room waiting for me. He's doing not like in that way. No, he's doing man, that's a soundbite. No, we're doing a collaboration together this weekend.
Well,
Chef Ron McKinley. He's a badass.
We'll go like another 15 or 20.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
I've gotten very interested in the last 10 or 15 years in what I'm putting into my body. Because what I'm putting, like, it's fuel, right? So and how that makes me feel physically, and more importantly, how that makes me feel mentally. Because mental health has been something that, you know, I've worked on for a really long time. And there are great tools to help with mental health, whether that be pharmacological, whether that be meditating or prayer. There's all kinds of different domains, but one of the things I think people are starting to realize more and more now is just like the gut-brain connection, and like what we're putting in and how that affects us. Not just physically, but with our thoughts and with our emotions. And I've been amazed at some of the changes that I've been able to make in my diet that have really had a like very positive. It's hard to imagine. Okay, so what I put in here and eat actually affects the way I perceive the world. And like, that's fascinating to me. I'm obsessed with it. And it's so complex. You're right. You can be an expert in a car because it's like a thing, and there's like parts and our bodies are so complicated and complex.
Yeah.
But we're starting to.
You can buy a new car.
And you can buy a new car, and you can't. But we are learning, thankfully, that there is a connection. We're learning that we're like, basically, you know, in large part, like big food has, you know, whether it's been delivered or not, has been kind of poisoning us for a really long time. And that's led to a lot of downstream negative impacts on our culture and on our mental health and our physical health and all this kind of stuff. And it's good that I just like that conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think about people like you that are preparing food for people, you know, with such intention and care. And I think that's got to be something that you're constantly thinking about as well.
I mean, I definitely think about it a whole lot right now. I'm trying to get into one of the things that I decided about 6 months ago now is that I wanted to, it's kind of this idea that if nothing changes, nothing changes, you know, type mindset. And I realized that if I wanted to be a stronger chef and I wanted to be a stronger leader, and I wanted to be a healthier person, and I wanted to, you know, make sure that I could operate both of these restaurants in a sound way, that I was going to have to change up my habits and my routine, because if nothing changes, nothing changes. And so I told myself that I wanted to create a routine that scared me, but I knew that that would be the routine of someone who did all those things successfully. So with that, it changed my diet, it changed my sleep habits, it changed like every single day. For at least 30 minutes, because I firmly believe that someone can find a 30-minute block. For 30 minutes, no matter what, every single day, I meditate for 30 minutes. I do something physical for 30 minutes. I read for 30 minutes. I do something for someone else for 30 minutes. And then I hone a skill for 30 minutes. So at least, if I can do more, great. If I can't get to 30 minutes, I got to find that time.
Mm.
So from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Read, physical, help somebody, do something for somebody.
Meditate. And hone a skill.
Okay.
Yeah. So
2.5 hours a day.
2.5 hours a day. So it ends up being a little bit more than that for the physical side of things. The hardest one to get 30 minutes in on is doing something for someone else. So I like really start seeking it out. I try and do that near the beginning of the day because I know that's a more difficult one to do. It's the, I enjoy doing it. So it's not like the David Goggins, like do the one thing that sucks every single day.
Yeah.
But, you know, you start.
That's for the physical part.
Yeah. But see, now I'm addicted to the gym now. It's crazy how just putting in 30 minutes minimum of physical activity every single day will change you physically. Like it's crazy.
Here too.
Yeah. But getting into that, you start realizing that if you're not fueling your body properly, you can't get that stuff done. I've had one, besides when I went down to New Orleans, because when you're in New Orleans, I'm going to drink a bottle of wine over dinner, like between 3 people. But besides that, I've had 5, because the cool thing is that you can count them when they're so few. I've had 5 cocktails in 4 months, which if you knew me before that, like I remember having my podcast with Robbie. I was talking to, we were just talking about Robbie, I know Robbie's sober and things like that. And I was like, man, last night I had like half a handle of Hennessy.
Yeah.
This is an interesting conversation to have with somebody. So it's something where removing alcohol, removing sugar, I can't tell you. Actually, I can tell you the last time I had processed sugar was when I drank a ginger ale to settle my stomach. But I haven't really had processed sugar at all in 4 months. It assists you in completing those 5 tasks every single day and doing more of those tasks every single day. And then all of a sudden I'm performing better at work and my mind's a little bit more clear.
What happened 4 months ago? You've cut down the alcohol, the sugar.
Dude.
Did you have a moment or what?
I mean, why does every single person go through a massive,
Okay.
Yeah. I had a very amicable split from the person that I was seeing at the time. But then also adding in to that was knowing that this new restaurant was going to open, that the Michelin Guide's coming to the South. Even if we don't get a star, we're going to go after it as hard as we can. We are going to be the best version of ourselves and because we're not going to change who we are for the sake of this guide. So we're going to find the best version of us, and that's what we're going to deliver. So it was kind of an intimidating ask. We also had a massive flip at the restaurant as far as employees leaving, new employees coming in. I knew I was going to be relied upon a little bit more for prep work and things like that, and cooking during service. I knew that this is like my put up or shut up moment. And it also was leading up to the 5 years. It was like this perfect storm of like things. And I was like, okay, you got to get yourself under control. You got to develop this. That's when I was like, all right, time to put in this routine. And it's gotten kind of funny at the restaurant because I've been asking them to do similar stuff. And if I haven't hit my 30 minutes of reading and I know that I'm not going to get my 30 minutes of reading done in that day, then they have to listen to whatever audiobook I'm listening to for 30 minutes while we're prepping.
While you're prepping.
So we're like listening to Embrace the Suck by Brent Gleason for like 30 minutes while we're prepping. And it's just like, let's go to SEALs. And then we were listening to Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Hamilton. Ryan Holiday. Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, good stuff.
Great book. I was convinced it was going to be terrible. I'm not going to lie. Because I'd never read one of his books before, but I had like heard things about him. I was like, oh man, this book is going to be just like so rough, but it was awesome. And
I mean, you totally probably were nodding your head a lot because a lot of what Ryan writes about, you had already kind of clued in on a lot of that. I mean,
I've only read this one book by him so far. I'm going to read another one of his books.
The Obstacle is the Way. Read that.
Okay.
The Obstacle is the Way is
because he mentions that in
freaking awesome, dude.
Yeah, he mentions that because he talks about the obstacle is the way when he's talking about Genghis Khan in Ego is the Enemy, which that was like the favorite part of the book to my staff members, was that this crazy mongoloid guy was actually incredibly wicked intelligent and was all about learning from other people.
Totally. But probably one of the most brilliant military strategists in history.
Yeah. Speaking of, the next book I'm reading is The Art of War. So we'll see. I've never read it.
So you're getting so you got Sun Tzu, and then the guy that Ryan, sort of his mentor was a dude named Robert Greene. Mm-hmm. Robert Greene wrote 33 Strategies for War, which I highly recommend.
So I read that when I was I was young when I read that. I think I was in my early 20s.
Reread it. It's so good.
Yeah, I can't even tell you anything about it, actually.
It's so good. And that's where he gets into all like the military strategy. And then there's 48 Laws of Power, which he wrote. Mm-hmm. And then Ryan kind of came, like, learned from him. And Ryan's awesome. Yeah. Love his stuff. So you've got, all right, and then you've got the gym going on now. So,
oh, dude.
You're in.
Oh, hard.
Because you're talking about listening to this. You mentioned Goggins and like some SEALs. So you're getting into like what it means to really push yourself physically. And,
I told you that I love failing. I'm addicted to failure.
Yeah.
I love it. Like,
why? Why is that?
Because it's the only way you learn. It's the only way, like, without failing, you never see what you're capable of and what you're not capable of doing yet.
Yeah.
And so if you just stay in this comfort zone all the time, right? The only difference between, the average person and someone who is doing something great is they just do something a little bit extra of the ordinary every day, and then boom, you're extraordinary. So it's like, my idea is like only 49.99% of people get to be above average.
Yeah, right.
And only 1% get to be 1%. I'm not saying that I'm ever going to be, I told the team this, and this kind of like blew their mind. I said, if we get a Michelin star, that's saying that we're in the top 0.003% of restaurants that exist in the world.
Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
And they're here like, how do you like
November 3rd is when they release November 3rd is when they released the guide for
and how
the
long
South.
Would they have been?
Since February is supposedly what it is.
It's completely anonymous.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're good about being anonymous, because if they've come to the restaurant, I've not figured out who they were. Really? Yeah, they're good. But
do we have any Michelin star restaurants?
No.
In Charlotte?
No.
Have we?
No. This is the very first time the guide's been here.
Okay.
Ever.
So, and then you said the South. So like they're literally going to like all throughout the
North and South Carolina, Tennessee, Mississippi, New Orleans, Georgia. Florida has their own guide. Yeah, and that's it.
And likely how many restaurants will be given us a star?
I've been asked this question so many times, and I initially was giving answers to it because I thought I knew. I've got no idea.
Okay.
The only thing that I spend my money on, literally the only thing that I spend my money on is shoes and food. Shoes and traveling. Yeah. That's it. I've got an unfortunate addiction to both. I've been very, very fortunate to go to over 100 different Michelin star restaurants throughout the world, like unique ones. I've had over 130 different Michelin experiences. Based upon those experiences, I would say here in Charlotte, you've got 3 restaurants that have the potential to get a Michelin star. I don't think that there's any restaurants in Charlotte that have the potential for 2, because there's massive steps from 1 to 2 to 3 stars.
Okay.
I would say in the South, in totality, you've got 2 restaurants that could get 2 Michelin stars, and that's Emeril's in New Orleans and then Catbird Seat in Nashville. And then if they consider Blackberry Farm within the realm, then they would probably get 2. But outside of that, it's a crapshoot on who gets 1, because 1 is based upon expert cookery and the chef telling their story. So, and consistency. So it depends on who the judges are at the end of the day and if they agree. I think the lowest amount of stars that you can see in North Carolina is 3 1-stars, and the most that you're going to see in North Carolina is 10 1-stars.
Okay.
Same thing with South Carolina. I think New Orleans and Nashville are going to have the most. I think Nashville is going to have probably 6.
Okay.
I think New Orleans is probably going to have 5 or 6.
Okay.
Yeah. That's my guess, but in reality, you got no idea.
Okay.
You got absolutely no idea. It's a wild game.
But that's cool that you're sticking to what the best version of yourself, whether that gets the...
Because if we get a Michelin star not being ourselves, then it's like... What was the point?
Suck. Because you're going to be stressed trying to maintain that for something that you're not.
It's the difference of happiness and joy. This is the thing that there's 2 things that you never talk to me about. Like, I will instantly correct you on this. First off, we're not talented. That's my favorite thing about this industry, is that there's no talent in hospitality, especially as a cook. It's all skill. You don't just wake up one day and know how to brew one onion. You don't wake up one day and know how to all the tasting notes of work. Yeah. So you develop skill.
Intention. Yeah, right.
Very little talent. It's all skill. So I hate when people tell my team that they're talented. I've corrected so many guests.
I like that.
I was like, do not call them talented.
Skilled chef.
I was like, talent's lazy.
Yeah.
Skill showed up every single day. They've been busting their ass for 14 hours every day. Talent doesn't do that. So then the other thing is that when people say, oh, you must be so happy about this, or isn't like how happy you're going to be if you get a Michelin star or something like that. It's like, that's not something that I care about at all. Happiness is a fix. Happiness is a drug. I don't care about that. Happiness dies. Happiness dies when the sun goes down. Joy is what wakes you up in the morning.
Yeah. Right.
That's what I've actually got that. I thought that the other day, and I literally have it like on the front of my phone. Happiness will die by the morning. Joy is a struggle that wakes you.
Did you ever watch the show Mad Men?
Yeah, that was my life. Like, it was actually very accurate. When I was at iHeart, we had like mini fridges in our cubicles. But yeah, that was not too far off.
There's some great lines about humanity and behavioral psychology, and that one of it, and I might get it slightly off, but Don Draper says, you're not happy. Happiness is just the fleeting moment before you realize you need more happiness or whatever.
Yeah.
To your point. I love that.
So if we get a Michelin star, we'll be, I told the team, I actually told the team this yesterday. I said, if we get a Michelin star, we're going to be happy for one day.
Well, like you said earlier, you celebrate the 5-year for one day, and then now it's like, well, now we've got to get to the 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I told him, I was like, no matter what, if we get a Michelin star, the joy comes from retaining it and going after 2. If we don't get a Michelin star, the joy comes from making sure that it's not even a discussion next year.
Yeah.
But if you're solely banking in on the happiness of putting a plaque up, you're going to be happy when they tell you that you're going to get the plaque. You're going to be happy when you put the plaque up. And you might be happy one more time every now and then when you see the plaque when you're walking around the restaurant.
Yeah.
But I would trade joy for happiness all the time.
So, we're talking about Stoics. We're talking about Navy SEALs, pushing yourself, failure, embracing failure. These are some great life lessons, because a lot of times it takes a long time. It took me a long time to realize that, to learn that.
Some people never do.
Some people never do, and it's unfortunate, especially when you see it and you know it. There's a book, Mindset, by Carol Dweck. Have you ever heard of it?
It's on my list.
You know, there's a fixed mindset. This gets to your point about talent and skill. Fixed mindset is, I am not good at math. Like, we went through it at our kids' school. Like, when they were in lower school, they had us read, and I loved it. And we always taught to our kids, like, if math does not come easily to you, that doesn't mean you're not good at math. In fact, that's probably a good thing that it doesn't come easy to you, because you have to work to master that. And then the more you work, the more skilled you get. And oftentimes talent, natural, and you could have talent, let's say in math or in sports. But the thing is, that natural talent oftentimes leads to laziness because it comes so easily. So it's almost like a blessing when something's hard.
Yeah.
Because it forces you the obstacle is the way to go through the obstacle.
You ready for me to tell you something, like, within the last 2 minutes of us chatting, that's going to make you so mad that we're not going to be able to continue the conversation?
We'll do it another time. Let's do it.
So I'm going to blame you for bringing up math. So every single dish that we have at counter, every single one of them, is based on the Fibonacci sequence.
Come on.
Every single one of them.
Really?
Everything is done in 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. Everything.
Why?
Because so all of our dishes, there's a principal flavor that's the 8. The secondary flavor is the 5. The tertiary flavor is the 3. From this, we interchange what those flavors are. So each dish is imbalanced, but by the end of it, your flavor is balanced. And so it allows each thing to have different impact. And then we plate everything in that sequence too. So you'll never see 4 of something on a plate ever. So, but one of the things that I found very interesting that kind of goes along with your point of, like, some kids feeling like that they're not good at math and things like that, is something that I learned from one of our guests. And it was after I brought this up to him, and he had told me that he has a PhD in math, or PhD in math. And some really weird abstract thing about certain kinds of graphs. Like, that's what he's got his PhD on. Super niche. So he told me, he was like, the reason why, especially mathematics, is such a male-dominated study is because the math that you learn the first 10 years that you are in schooling is all math that is based on algebra and calculus and things like that, which fit very well with how 90% of male minds are developed.
Okay.
But biologically, female minds are very, very high level and skilled in geometric equations. And that's why the only element of math that is dominated by women as far as having doctorates is geometry. And things like Fibonacci and things like that. And so there's such an issue with young girls feeling like they're not intelligent because they show up to their algebra classes and they show up to all this, and the boys are picking up on it so fast. But then they're struggling, but they don't get to have that moment of, like, feeling capable sometimes until they're in that geometry class, and they're picking it up so much faster than anybody else.
Yeah.
And so it was just a really interesting thing that I learned from him, and just how people are just so outrageously unique in that regard. But yeah, this little nugget that I'll leave with you is that
awesome.
we're batshit crazy. Like,
I love that.
It's so funny to have people interviewing at the restaurant, or like Chef Ron is in for this week from Toronto, and we were discussing one of the dishes with my sous chef, and you could tell that he wasn't quite grasping what was being said about how the flavor composition was. I said, Chef, your 8 is this, your 5 is this, your 3 is this. He was like, oh, okay, cool. Picked it up. And then Chef Ron was like, what the f are you talking about? And I was like, yeah, so we're kind of crazy. We do everything by Fibonacci. And then he was like, what are you talking about? So went through it with him too. And, but yeah, that's actually, I'm writing something on it right now. And I'm going to disappear for a month in January to finish that book. The unfortunate thing is like 500 pages right now. And I have to reduce it down.
What is the book?
It's straight on theory. It's a theory of development of food, but then also how we interact with food and just the enjoyment of it and like the mental deciphering of food. So there's not a recipe book.
Then when you're done, let's do another.
Let's do it, man.
Episode. This is a good platform, right? It's a great place to share. Yeah. I got to ask you one more thing.
Yeah.
Because I want to ask you about shoes.
Yeah.
Because this is like this little side thing that I've been obsessed with for a while, and I've got to figure out how to make it happen. I believe that there's 16 million people in our country that work in hospitality. It's like the second or third largest workforce in our country.
Yeah, because I think healthcare is number 1 or something.
I mean, I think it's like healthcare and government or something, or like 1 and 2. But 16 million people, right?
Yeah.
Vitally important workforce. Undervalued, underappreciated. Always like, I mean, I won't even get off my whole bit about hospitality, like almost being like first responders. Every time there's a freaking disaster, who shows up? First responders and people that own and run restaurants. They give time, they give money, they give food, they give service, they give everything. All right. Well, there are hospitality shoes that are made for hospitality that look like they're made for hospitality. Bingo. So I've got this idea I hatched where I'm like obsessed with it, and I'm trying to find a shoe company to make badass looking shoes, that marry form and function for hospitality. And I went to Vans. I love Vans. I went to Vans. I'm going to send this to the Vans people because I got to the decision makers at Vans.
Oh, that's cool.
But now it's kind of crickets. Vans is having some problems right now. Like Vans is VF Corp bought them, it's private equity. And like they kind of, as private equity often does, like the soul gets stripped out. And then they're trying to like.
And the man himself passed away a couple of years ago. So
it's like they're having some problems, but they're trying to refine their identity, like their North Star. And I'm like, guys, what better brand than Vans to do this for this industry? Like an industry of rebels and misfits and like, this is your people. And here's the thing. I used to so my company is Schedule Fly, and we have these socks that try like a total dork wearing these things, but they say fly, they're comfortable. So I would go around and I'd like hand out our fly socks with our customers. And for years, people would take off Vans to put the socks on. In the last few years, it's not Vans. So I went to them and I'm like, I got this idea, and they're like, maybe we'll get it done through them. And maybe we won't. Cool. And maybe it will be somebody. I've already started a conversation with New Balance. Like, I'm trying to find a company that's like, that's an important industry. We want to do something for this industry. We have 200,000+ people that use our software every day. So I've got like this really engaged, like incubator, like trial market to go, hey, like, let's try it here. And if it works, then you've got 16 million people, US, 300 million people worldwide to market this shoe to. Make a shoe that people want to wear, not that they have to wear, because it's not.
You should get Birkenstock on that thing.
Birkenstock. Well, and then there's like front of house and back of house.
So comfortable.
Yeah. So,
but I mean,
but don't you think somebody should do that? Like
110%,
make
because
a badass shoe. Because you got to wear shoes.
I wear a different. Oh, this is a problem. I wear a different pair of sneakers for each menu that we do. So we've done 53 menus. So I got 53 pairs of shoes.
That's awesome.
It's rough. So I'm mainly wearing Jordans now. Because my feet now must really gotten screwed up, because if they feel good in Jordans, then something's wrong. But I was wearing Vans at the beginning. I really love their, oh man, what was the name of that line? They don't even make them anymore, I don't think. Whatever. But I mean, that would be really dope. I would be about it. But I think at the end of the day, it's got to be a shoe that you don't feel like you've got concrete bricks for feet at the end of the day. Because that's the hardest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the last piece of that is that I kind of tied this in is that my thought is that you take to make this story really, to round out this story and show that you are really supporting the industry, is that you take some portion of the proceeds from the sale of these shoes, whoever it is, let's say Vans does this, and they give some portion to Giving Kitchen. You know Giving Kitchen?
Oh, yeah.
Freaking love Giving Kitchen.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Amazing. Phenomenal organization. 16 million people in hospitality every day. 1% of them are in crisis. 1,600 people every day are,
I'm surprised it's not more than that.
At least every day. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. But I mean, like their story, like the real example that I always like to use because it's easy to remember is mom works 2 hospitality jobs, single mom, 3 kids. She steps off a curb, breaks her ankle, reconstructive surgery, can't work for 2 or 3 months, and is like going to lose,
what happens?
Her apartment, can't pay her bill. What do you do? Now, what a lot of people do is they go to their owner, hey man, like, can I borrow? Like, I'm kind of, there's Giving Kitchen. You call them and they take care of you. I think it's a phenomenal freaking organization. Anyway, so that's kind of like the round out of like,
we've done a couple things with them in the past. They're awesome.
So you're in. You'd buy a pair of shoes.
Buy a pair of shoes.
There you go. Whoever does this, we got your first customer right here today.
I will switch out my Jordan 4 breads for those shoes.
All right. I think, you got Vans socks on. See, you got Vans socks and Jordan.
Which don't tell anyone that. You're not supposed to out me out on that.
Well, here's the thing. So you're going to eventually get, now you keep staying in the gym long enough, you're going to start getting where you're like, oh, I need a wide toe box so that my toes splay.
Oh, I've got that. I've got those shoes in the car for when I go to the gym. Yeah. Okay. No, I've probably been going too hard. No, that's not possible. Yeah, I've had some fun in the gym. Well, I've gone from I was 200 4 months ago, I was 218 pounds at 28% body fat. And now I'm 198 at 20% body fat.
That's freaking awesome.
In 4 months. And I'm not taking steroids.
Taking creatine?
Yeah. There's creatine.
There you go.
Right there. Creatine's incredible for your brain. I didn't what? I started reading those studies and I was like, oh my Lord. Okay, cool. I'm going to take it even if I wasn't at the gym.
All right. So we will do another one after your book comes out because we could be here all day. I got to let you roll. You got your chef hanging out waiting for you. So, hey, for y'all listening, watching, do you want to keep seeing, hearing, listening to awesome content like this? Give the podcast a rating on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Give it a 5-star rating. Throw a comment in there. The more
I'm doing it right now.
There you go. The more the algorithm sees these ratings, the more people it puts it in front of. So I'm trying to remember to always ask that. That is a wrap, Sam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
This is awesome. This is fun.
All right, y'all. See you.